So this new video of Alex Pretti is very telling, and it exploded last night on the internet. There were very heated debates on X about whether it's relevant, and I thought you had the best take of anybody on why it is relevant. I'm just going to refresh the audience's memory from last hour and show you the second angle of it, where you can hear him yelling at the agents here in SOT 2.
Fuck you!
That's him.
What the fuck is wrong with you? Every decision you made in your life is fucking wrong. Look at you. Pepper spray, bitch. How can you stop me, motherfucker? How can you do that?
Effing assault me.
Fuck you guys. Fucking crap.
There he goes. Tries to spit on the ICE agent. With anger, kicks in the taillight, which comes off the truck entirely. Double middle finger. Now out comes the agent. Confrontation. He resists. And they let him go. And 11 days later, he would do it again. And he was killed in that second altercation. So your thoughts on why this is relevant? Even if these are the same, any of the same guards, it's obviously relevant. Because if they recognize this guy as a terrorist, yes, of course. But even if they didn't know that this was a guy they'd had a confrontation with 11 days earlier, you make the case for why we're all having this reaction to it. Walk us through it, Will.
Well, so it defeats the left's narrative, right? You know, the legal aperture, the way we would view this legally is just from the perspective of the reasonable officer who would be in the shoes of the person who shot Alex Pretti a few days ago. And we've had a slew of legal analysts explain that the likely outcome of a dispassionate analysis of that shooting is that it was a lawful shoot, because, I mean, there's a variety of reasons. The guy was violently resisting arrest. He had a gun on him, and the officers weren't shooting them, and all of a sudden they got scared by something, probably his holster being empty, somebody saying gun, gun, gun. We don't know if that's exactly what happened, but that's a reasonable suspicion. And then he was shot, and it's the left that's tried to open the aperture from the legal perspective on self-defense to all these other claims about, ICE is executing people on the street. And this was a nurse who was just trying to help a woman who was in distress. And, you know, he was just protesting the evil of ICE, and these people are untrained and blah, 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 blah. And the thing is, it's like, okay, well, now the aperture is really open, and now we're really seeing who this guy was, and your narrative is totally blown up. And now you want to shrink the aperture back down and say, oh, whoa, 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 we need to only be thinking about what happened on that day. It's like, well, that's what we've been trying to tell you the whole time, and what the analysis hasn't changed.
That's so exactly right. Thank you for saying it so articulately. Eric Erickson's been online trying to call back conservatives who are moved by this video, saying, quote, guys, Alex Pretti was clearly an activist agitator in this clip. He was also disarmed before Border Patrol agents killed him. The team sport insistence on dragging the dead man is kind of gross at this point. I understand pushing back against a narrative, but let the dead die. He was responding to Mark Thiessen, who tweeted out this video with a comment, just an innocent nurse who was, quote, directing traffic. I completely disagree with Eric Erickson on this, and I know you do too. It's not a team sport insistence on dragging the dead man. It is a battle right now for actual facts, which are being spun by the left into fiction. And those of us on Team Reality understand perfectly well what this guy was. And most of us, I've seen you as well this week, even before this second video came, understood exactly what we were dealing with even before this video. But this just confirms it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Eric Erickson's been in this game a long time. I don't know why he's still falling for left-wing agitprop, because that was obviously what this is. I think, you know, if you're actually trying to take a sort of grand view of what's happening, it's sort of the importation of Palestinian politics into the United States, right? Like, this is, instead of Pallywood, this is now Miniwood. It's the, you know, the creation, the agitation by lawless elements against the legitimate authorities of law enforcement to try and create a propaganda spectacle that can be used to delegitimize the legitimate forces of government and the legitimate law enforcement. That's all we're seeing here. And so what I don't get, I mean, how does Erickson not see that? And there is one really interesting thing, I think, about what that video, the old video kind of reveals about the new one. The old video shows that this guy is an unhinged, violent lunatic against ICE agents. So go back to the new one. Remember how Right, right. So go back to the one where he was shot. What was he doing at the very beginning of this video? He was directing traffic. What's he doing when he's directing traffic? Well, exactly. Well, it's kind of colored by the fact that we now know this guy's an unhinged, violent lunatic attacking ICE agents. He's directing an obstruction of ICE affairs. So again, the whole, there's this idea that somehow the ICE officers instigated this with Alex Pretti. No, Pretti and his agitator colleagues instigated a felony violation of 18 U.S.C. 111. They were actively, intentionally obstructing a law enforcement operation that kicked off this whole thing. And then a slew of other, essentially terribly poor, slew examples of terribly poor judgment created the circumstances in which another officer likely felt and reasonably felt that either his life was in danger or somebody else's life was in danger.
That's the thing. Well, it's right there on the tape. He wanted to be attacked. He repeatedly worked to create circumstances where he would be attacked. He did that while armed with a loaded gun he knew would raise the fear levels and the perceived threat levels by any officer with whom he came into contact. And then on top of that, once he got his wish and got attacked, he resisted the arrest both times. I mean, it's almost turning into a suicide by cop situation. I mean, like, if you
Correct.
wanted to die at the hands of a law enforcement officer, this would definitely be an avenue you could consider.
Right. And you see, like, the Beavis and Butthead of progressive commentary, people like Tim Miller and Jon Favreau continuously saying things like, oh, he didn't deserve this. This was an unjust punishment. He didn't deserve to be executed. And it's a complete category error. It's not even wrong.
Yes,
it's just, you're not even thinking about this in the right way from conception, because punishment happens through the judicial system. Punishment is what would have happened had this guy submitted to arrest. This was lawful self-defense and defense of others. So it's all about the individual rights of the person. And so when we talk about the actions of Pretti as flawed, we're not saying that the shooting was punishment for those actions. Rather, we are saying they were reckless actions that created the risk of death in an encounter with law enforcement. And in the same way that you wouldn't say somebody is like deserves to be punished when they die from playing Russian roulette or crossing 8 lanes of traffic. They just took a reckless risk and got unlucky.
Right. I mean, it's not unlike the Michael Brown situation in Ferguson, Missouri, where he assaulted an officer and then he charged the officer, and that's why he got shot and killed. No one's like, he deserved to die. It's like, no one's saying that like the final punishment for an assault was him getting shot. The question is not, did he deserve it? The question is, was the officer justified in responding the way he did, given the threat that was created by the other person? That's exactly the analysis here. And it's only these leftists who want to spin it into deserved or didn't. And now, as you point out, they want to skinny that aperture down to just like, oh, well, you can't even take into consideration his prior bad behavior. You can. And to me, the thing that's the most telling is how angry he is. He was so torqued up in that earlier video. I mean, if you haven't seen it, members of the audience, you got to go back and look at it online. You can, we started a second hour with it. We started the first hour with it. He is rageful, Will, and that would translate into his next physical confrontation with those officers. They can feel the amount of rage in a body that's resisting them. It amps up everybody's tensions and stress and alert levels. Like, he truly is the one who created all of the tempers and the worries and the fears among the officers who had to deal with him this past Saturday, none of which gets factored in by the left.
Yeah, I think there's only one real legitimate critique of federal law enforcement here is that they failed to take him into custody during that first assault. You can actually make a legitimate argument that that failure may have led to his death because it didn't, give him a 24-hour cooling off period and lockup to think about his actions and maybe change course. And certainly what he did in that earlier video is certainly deserving of immediate detention. The guy's a danger to the community based on that conduct. You don't just go around kicking law enforcement officers and demanding they assault you. That's, at a minimum, it's like a mental health issue that perhaps you need to get examined for. So none of this looks good for him. And I guess, again, suicide by cop seems right. The guy's showing up with a gun to aggressively confront law enforcement without ID. And maybe he scrubbed his social media too. Like, really? I mean, maybe this is suicide by cop.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what this is.
Honestly, like that's what occurred to me, because like if you wanted to do it and make yourself a martyr, you'd play it out exactly this way. I mean, exactly this way. Although I think you would have tried to reach for your gun more explicitly, but he was being held down by the officers. I don't know, but this was extremely reckless behavior by him. And the reason the prior video is relevant is it does give us a window into how, I mean, truly, this guy was not stable. 37 years old, not married, no kids, working as a nurse, not getting a bunch of accounts from friends and so on. I'm not sure exactly who Alex Pretti really was, which is why all week I've been hitting Noam on saying that, he was brandishing his gun and he was actively, he went there to kill law enforcement. But I have not hit her on the domestic terrorist thing, because I've been saying to the audience, that we don't know, actually. Let's find out more about Alex Pretti. And sure enough, the more we learn this guy was a terrorist of sorts. He was terrorizing ICE. Would you consider somebody a domestic terrorist who had spat on you, who had kicked out the taillight of your car, who's screaming in your face, motherfucker, fucking attack me, who resisted arrest when you try to effect it twice? Yeah, I would. But here's the narrative we've been getting all week. All right, let's go. This one went viral. They said it. Somebody took this video of Elizabeth Warren and set it to his outburst. I'm just going to show you the original Elizabeth Warren video from the Senate floor, trying to read testimonials about this guy.
Alex was an ICU nurse at the Minneapolis VA hospital, a nurse for veterans. He was a son, a brother, a friend, a caretaker. And he was killed while he was trying to help a woman who had been pushed to the ground by a federal agent. 17 days earlier, ICE agents shot and killed Renee Good, a 37-year-old American citizen and mom, dropping off her kid at school. She had stuffed animals in her glove compartment. Her last words on this earth were, "I'm not mad at you."
Wow.
ICE agents detain Liam, a 5-year-old boy who was literally ripped off the streets by the strap of his Spider-Man backpack, a preschooler.
The amount of propaganda disinformation in that clip, well, it's stunning.
You could spend half an hour analyzing that 2 minutes, honestly. I mean, I'm just reminded again of that ridiculous claim about how, because the last words she said were, "I'm not mad at you," as though you needed to take those literally. Any heterosexual male knows that you are making a grave error if you take those words literally from your partner. Just a grave mistake.
Nothing.
Right. There's nothing wrong. I'm not mad at you. Yeah. Are you upset? No. Uh-huh. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Cool. Great. Okay, so we're good. I'm going out with the buddies.
Right. Yeah. I'm sure that's exactly what she wants you to do. Yeah. Yeah. Straight men know better. I remember,
you're so right. No, but all
Tim
of it,
Miller
right?
was making this claim, and that's when I knew he was gay. So
all of it. I mean, it's such obvious propaganda. A new year means new financial goals, like making sure your savings are secure and diversified. Will this be the year you decide to talk to someone from Birch Gold Group? They use an educational approach with a deep understanding of macroeconomics. There are forces pushing the dollar lower and gold higher, which is why they believe every American should own physical gold. So until January 30th, if you're a first-time gold buyer, Birch Gold is offering a rebate of up to $10,000 on qualifying purchases. To claim eligibility and start the process, just text MK to the number 989898. Birch Gold can help you roll an existing IRA or 401k into an IRA in gold, and you are still eligible for a rebate of up to $10,000. Consider making right now your first time to buy gold and take advantage of a rebate up to $10,000 when you buy by January 30th. Text MK to the number 989898. Claim your eligibility today. Again, just text MK to the number 989898. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.